Acts 13 verse 38. Be it known unto you, therefore, men and brethren, that through this man is preached unto you the forgiveness of sins. Context in one sentence. Paul is speaking in Pisidian Antioch, announcing that God's saving work in Jesus isn't a rehash of the law, but a living, offered forgiveness centered on Christ. What this verse says, plainly, forgiveness is not achieved by human effort or religious checklist. It's proclaimed through this man, Jesus. The gospel that Paul preaches announces a decisive relational act from God that frees people from the burden and guilt of sin. Why it matters today, freedom from guilt in a performance culture. We live in a world that measures worth by output, likes, and appearances. Many people carry a constant inner tally of failures and not enoughness. Acts 13:38 reminds us forgiveness is not another metric to chase. It's a gift announced through Jesus. That changes the starting place of life, from defensive striving to resting trust. Hope where shame is loudest, shame isolates. The early Christian message broke down barriers and publicly declared that the guilty are offered mercy. Today, that applies to anyone who feels trapped by past mistakes, trauma, or recurring patterns. Forgiveness is an invitation back into relationship, not a stamp that erases accountability, but one that opens the door for healing. Forgiveness and justice held together. Some worry that proclaiming forgiveness dismisses justice. The New Testament shows both. Forgiveness through Christ doesn't ignore wrongs. It reorients how they're handled, toward restoration rather than only retribution. That is a timely corrective for how we talk about conflict, punishment, and reconciliation in communities and systems. A communal and practical faith. When forgiveness is preached, it shapes how communities live, with confession, mutual care, and restorative practices. Acts 13:38 calls the church to be a place where people can admit failure and receive help, not just judgment. Practical takeaways you can try this week. Sit quietly and name one thing you carry guilt about. Offer it to God in a short prayer and receive the simple truth. Forgiveness is offered. Practice one small act of grace towards someone, a listening ear, a handwritten note, or an apology. If you're part of a church or group, bring up how your community can better support restoration over shame. A short closing thought. This verse is an urgent, tender proclamation that forgiveness is available, announced openly through Jesus. It's an invitation to stop performing and start living, forgiven, freed, and sent to live that same grace into the world.